Hi everyone, welcome to Soloed Quest. I am Ed, and today we're having a solo review of the Age of Artisans expansion for Architects of the West Kingdom. We've recently had the solo playthrough using this expansion right here. We had the previous one for the base game. Now you all voted for another playthrough of Architects using this expansion right here, the Age of Artisans, which came out last year into the public. So this is going to be a quick review. Again, I'm just shortly going to talk about the things that this expansion is going to add to the base game and just give you my overall impression on this expansion. Do I feel it's essential? Do I not? So, like I said, and like you saw in the playthrough, maybe you didn't saw, so I'll just recap everything. Age of Artisans brings a few additions to the game. So it brings the artisan, as stated in the name. We have a new worker here. It's a much larger one with some special abilities, and that really adds to the game in my experience, especially because you also have these new apprentices that actually interact with that new worker. So the artisan will double up the worker force when you drop him, meaning that he's not just one worker, he will count as two when you drop him into spaces. That is going to give you much more leniency for your planning. Again, that it looks like a small change, but it is not. Again, if you go into the mines, you can just get a gold immediately. That can really speed up your strategy. It might be very important in a few games, and again, all the interactions with the new apprentice cards, the strongmans, I believe. I know I can't recall the name, but there are a special apprentice that is going to add more abilities into your artisan. Where you place him, you can maybe capture workers from your opponent. Maybe you can get some other things. So you can get a really powered up artisan. Now that is going to interact with overall strategy. That means that if your artisan is in prison and if you have a lot of those strongman apprentices, like your artisan is super important to you, you get a lot of stuff from him. Maybe you are going to go to the prison a few times more than you would otherwise to get him out of prison and use him as much as you can. Maybe if he's captured, you want to get him back. Maybe you're preventing your opponent from getting money from delivering your workers to prison as well. So maybe you'll pay more times to release your workers immediately from other player boards. Again, it seems like a small thing, but it's going to bring a whole new set of options that maybe you wouldn't take before, but you will be thinking about taking now with that little added piece, the artisan and both the apprentices that interact with him. Now, another big thing from the expansion is the new deck of craft cards. Again, I couldn't remember during the playthrough. I think it's craft cards, where you can build ornaments to your buildings, or you can have tools for your apprentices. These will be basically upgrades into the things that you were already building and recruiting before in the base game. So that is also fantastic. Why? Because again, it's not just a deck of cards. It's going to interact with the with building in the guild hall, okay, and placing more workers in there. Again, workers on top of another worker to get one of those upgrades. Now, like I was saying, besides being more things that you can get, more upgrades, more good stuff, putting another worker in the guild hall is a big down payment, because that work is going to stay there. So it is something that will dwindle your workforce even more, because it was being dwindled from building in the guild hall. Those workers were being placed there. They were not returning, because that is definitive. You place them there, you lose them for the rest of the game. So if you do a lot of upgrades, and we did in our playthrough, we did quite a few. It comes a time when that workforce is pretty tight. I mean, if you're being captured, or if you have a limited workforce, if you're spending a lot of them in the guild hall, you have a few number of workers, and you're spreading them a lot in the board, not going a lot into the same places. That's going to be hard, because if you want to get them back through the town center, you kind of, well, you can, but it's going to be either one or two just from a spot instead of getting a lot of them. So it's going to be hard to muster up all of your workers once more to use them. And there were a few tests, one of my games, I didn't record them when I was testing the expansion, that happened to me. I was really having trouble getting workers because, yeah, they were so spread out and they were not being captured by the AI that things got complicated. So again, it's just another thing to have in mind, that putting those workers on the guild hall to get the upgrades, while the upgrades are very tasty and fantastic, because it gives you more stuff, it does not come for free. It does have a price, and it can be pretty big in certain games. Okay. Now, one thing about that specific improvement, well, not just one, but one of the downsides for me is how you place the workers on top of another one. Now, on the solo playthrough, I did that little thingy, that trick that I do, of just using the right side of the guild hall, but playing multiplayer, this is a solo focused review, but playing multiplayer, I can see that being a bit of an issue, playing the workers on top of the other ones, especially if it's very populated and you're just placing your worker in between, you know, other players' workers that are already stacked, that can all just come down. It's a bit like playing Jenga. I would seem, I haven't tried it, but it seems a bit weird. But on solo, again, you can just use that little trick I do. Just place them on the right side of the guild hall. That's easy. Nothing will be tumbling down. So yeah, in terms of solo, we're good on that part. All right, but now the upgrades themselves. Like I said, those are fantastic. Those are an added choice that you get. I thought that the base game for me was a little bit too simple. Let's call it like that. I found the difficulty after quite a few games, and not just me, the difficulty was a bit on the lower side. You could kind of play the AI, and you kind of still can. You still have to keep an eye on those depth cards that the AI will get because of the black market reset. So that still exists, but it's not so bad right now, because since the game was a bit more limited, that seemed to have a bigger part on the game itself. Now that you have other options and the AI as well, you kind of have to keep an eye on a lot of more stuff than just, you know, making sure the AI has the most workers on prison once that black market reset happens. Now you have to keep an eye on those ornaments and the points that they award, because the AI will get the most the ornament with the most points. So you really don't want to have it populated with a lot of 4s or even that 6. There's a 6 in there. I'm not sure if it came out on the playthrough, can't remember, but if it does, you have to snag it, because that's a lot of points for the AI. That's just another part of things that you will get, and that ups the difficulty of the game with Age of Artisans, in my opinion, which is a big plus for me. Now, we did use the powers here on the playthrough, because one, I didn't show it in the base game playthrough, and I wanted to show a few, just a base player power, just so you are aware that those exist. And honestly, it gives a lot of diversity as you are playing different games, so that it doesn't feel the same. Okay, you have a little bit of a power that's going to mix things up a little bit. Now, that again, using the player power is going to decrease the difficulty once more. So while I do feel comfortable using the player powers with the expansion, not without it, because without the expansion you'll eventually just trample the AI all the time. But with the expansion, it makes things a little bit more balanced, definitely, because the AI is getting more points. Okay, so the player powers, I haven't figured out a way. I'm trying to actually always use them, but keep things a little bit balanced. What I didn't do on the playthrough, but what I usually always do, since we get a free apprentice with the expansion as well, that makes things a little bit easier for us. What I do is I give a free upgrade card for the AI as well. So I place one of those. I can't remember the name now as well, so I'm having complete blank on the names of the components. But the AI has that upgrade. It can introduce new cards into its deck. So at the start of the game, I also put one already in her discard pile, as if she went into the workshop as well, just like I did to get a free apprentice. So that's one thing I do. I'm not sure if it makes that much of a difference, but I try to keep it a little bit balanced because, again, I want a challenge, and I think this adds to the challenge definitely because of those ornaments that the AI will now snag as well. So that's more points, and I do believe, and more things that you have to keep track of. So I do believe that the difficulty is upped, and if you don't play with player powers and you do that little upgrade card thing, I think you're okay. You're good to go. I think the difficulty is pretty spot on. It's not hard and it's not easy as well. So it's that middle ground, and I think it works fine. You probably will have, some better games than others. So apart from that, it's more diversity, more apprentices, some more buildings. I think we're good on buildings, honestly. I'm not sure if the game is going to get another expansion. If it did, I would like to see maybe like a different AI board. So we have Elena and the other character. Can't remember his name, of course. But I would like to see maybe another AI that maybe has some sort of special ability as well, so we could always use the player powers. That would be cool. Maybe just like a little small expansion. That would be great. Honestly, that's the only thing I would add. I think right now the weight of the game is just perfect. It kind of now reminds me of the weight of Raiders of the North Sea. Honestly, I think the game was a bit too simplified before, but this does make it a little bit more crunchy, and for me, just again, spot on the weight of it. And again, it brings that increase in difficulty that I think was crucial to the game, because the gameplay of Architects is fantastic. I think that worker placement is probably, I'm not sure, between that and the dungeon crawler, it's gonna be hard for me. I love both genres, but yeah, if you want an Ameritrash, I go with the dungeon crawler. If I want a Euro, I go with worker placement. Let's call it my favorite Euro mechanic, okay? And I love the gameplay flow of Architects. I just think, some of the actions, again, on the AI could be improved. The challenges of the AI, but I talk about that in the base game. I'm not going to bother you with that here. And I think, yeah, our Age of Artisans brings more options to you, so that you won't focus so much on looking at the AI and trying to, again, play that depth game. It also brings more options so that the AI gets more points. So there's other things that you will have to prevent the AI from getting. And I think, yeah, again, I'm kind of repeating myself at this moment. I think this is a fantastic expansion. And if you are a solo player and you own Architects of the West Kingdom, for me, this is essential. This is an essential expansion, and this is actually the first, well, it's not a game, but it is an expansion that I'm reviewing here on the channel, and it's going to be the first game/expansion that gets my one player commendation award. I think this is fantastic. It is a cheap expansion. For the price you pay, it adds so much to a great game that honestly, it wasn't a spectacular game for me. Like I said in my review, it was it's a good gameplay, but the AI didn't accompany the level of how good the gameplay was. For me, this expansion, again, ups the difficulty, makes it exactly what it needed to be. While it still can be improved, I think the AI can still get a few more improvements, a few more bumps to the difficulty. You can probably just house rule something to help out with that. And yeah, this is an essential expansion. Everything it brings is fantastic, well implemented, it's in theme, and it works great, and it's really not that hard to teach someone or to learn. So yeah, Age of Artisans, definitely a recommendation. If you own Architects and you like to play it solo, you need Age of Artisans. You should definitely get this expansion. Again, gets a commendation, fantastic work from Garfield Games. This expansion is just amazing. And yeah, those are my thoughts on Age of Artisans. A quick little review here for the expansion on the channel. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the solo playthrough. If you haven't seen it and you're interested in the expansion, go have a look. We've used a lot of stuff from the expansion. We interact with a lot of it. I tried to do it to, well, actually show the expansion, which was the point. And yeah, we use the player power, so there's a lot of stuff being shown there. And yeah, if you have any interest in the game, check it out. I'll leave the link in the description. And yeah, that's it from me for today. I will see you all in the next video. So until then, stay safe, everyone. Bye bye.